Good evening, glad you're watching. This is Switch TV News at 7. I am Lincoln Wambogo with sign language interpreter. It's Teresia Washira. We have a lot in line for you tonight, but first let's take a look at the headlines. Vacate from road reserves. MUKURU NJENGA residents told as the government moves in to pave way for the construction of the expressway. Youth, women and persons living with disability, this one's for you. On tonight's episode of Know Your CEO, we interact with UWEZO fan boss Peter LENGAPIANI as we look into the financial opportunities available and how you can access them. The trial of 14 men, including a former president, begins in Burkina Faso over the assassination of the country's revered revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara 34 years ago. It's a good day for Kenya as Kenya's Diana KIPYOGEI led a podium sweep in the women's race, while Benson KIPRUTO won his first ever major marathon, both clinching victories in total Kenyan dominance at the Boston Marathon. Massive congratulations to KIPRUTO and KIPYOGEI. The race, as you can see, is still ongoing and Kenyans had already finished it, not to make fun of the rest. But moving on to politics, One Kenya Alliance OKA principals led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka took their 2022 State House campaigns the streets of MAKUENI County today to lure voters ahead of the general polls. The trio says, given a chance, their main agenda will be getting rid of corruption in the country come 2022. Our very own Safi Godane Mamo reports.
One Kenya Alliance has continued with their political critiques on Deputy President William Ruto and his United Democratic Alliance bandwagon, terming him as an ox leader. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka led his fellow OKA principals Musalia Mudavadi of ANC and their Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetangula in Ukambani political tour today. The trio, alongside members of parliament, senators and other leaders, took their 2022 campaigns to MAKUENI County, assuring Kenyans of goodies ahead of the polls.
OKA ikichukua mamlaka, kwanza tunamaliza na kukomesha ufisadi mara moja. Na ile pesa ambayo tutakuwa tumeikusanya kwa wafisadi hawa, wanaweka mamilioni na mamilioni na kuja kuwanunulia wheelbarrow na wao wenyewe wanaenda na helikopta. Mwampelekeze hiyo pesa watarudisha
2022. Vile huwa nasema tutaonana na wale wengine mundu humundu. Sema mundu humundu. Mundu humundu. Wakati umefika kurudisha Kenya pale tulikuwa nayo na mzee Kibaki.
The leaders assured Kenyans of their unity as OKA principals ahead of the 2022 elections, promising to unveil their presidential flag bearer when the right time comes, as they rubbished Deputy President's bottom-up economic model.
Nataka watu wa MAKUENI munijibu. Hawa wauda wheelbarrow walipopatiwa 50% na serikali, ilikuwa ni 50% ya Ruto, 50% ya Uhuru, waliajiri ama waliopatia watu wangapi wa MAKUENI kazi?
While addressing residents in Mukuyuni, Masumba, Kikumini and Kitende in Kibwezi West, MAKUENI County, the three urged Kenyans to register as voters during the ongoing national mass voter registration exercise.
Wale vijana hawajachukua ID cards zao, waende wachukue, wajisajili kuwa wapigaji kura. Ikiwa mnataka Kalonzo, ni lazima muonyeshe kwa kujiandikisha kura.
On the expected ruling between Kenya and Somalia at The Hague on boundaries dispute, the leaders say Kenyan territories must be protected at all times. Safi Godanamamo, Switch TV.
Safi Godanamamo, thank you. Still on matters politics, the Mount Kenya Foundation MKF business moguls meeting with ODM leader Raila Odinga and One Kenya Lands officials seems to be giving Deputy President William Ruto and his allies sleepless nights as their conversations for the last 1 week have revolved around the meetings. MKF is expected to retreat for 2 weeks of deliberation before convening a crucial meeting dubbed the Limuru 3 to unveil their peak by November. Flora Limukia reports.
As the scramble for the 2022 elections intensify in the country, the conversation on endorsement of presidential hopefuls by the Mount Kenya Foundation continues to spur reactions from the Tanga faction.
Shida sasa ni wale tunashindana na wao leo. Number one, hawana candidate. Candidate yao bado wako kwa hoteli, anafanyiwa interview na watu wengine huko kwa hoteli.
Ndio uliona wengine mimi nilikuwa naona wamekaa kwa hoteli, mnafanya makosa ati mnawaita billionaires. Those are not billionaires. Those are brokers. Unajua billionaire ni mtu anafanya kazi yake mpaka inaonekana inajulikana. Lakini watu wamekula tenda ya Kenya kutoka 1963 mpaka saa hii. Those ones cannot be referred to as billionaires.
You meet in Safari Park, alafu you go to Mombasa, then you go to some other places thinking that you will make a decision regarding how we shall cast our ballot. My friend, I think that is a strategy that applied in 1963.
Deputy President William Ruto has bashed his opponents for criticizing his bottom-up economic model, saying that they lack a viable agenda for Kenyans ahead of the next year's polls.
Unatafuta mtu wako na plan. Alafu unatafuta mtu wako na track record. Unatafuta mtu wako na agenda. Wewe agenda yako ni gani?
Bottom up ni ya kuinua jamii ndogo.
Tuko na wewe 100%.
And the fuel row continues as the DP now calls on the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining to crush the corruption cartels responsible for the hike in fuel prices in Kenya.
The corruption cartel at the Ministry of Petroleum should explain to Kenyans why dealers have increased their profits from 9 shillings to 12 shillings.
A few days after Kajiado East Member of Parliament Peris Tobiko defected to United Democratic Alliance, Wilson SOSSION, who has been serving as a nominated MP under Orange Democratic Movement and eyeing the Bungoma senatorial seat in the 2022 general elections, has also joined the party. Flora Limuki, Switch TV.
Thank you, Flora Limuki. Demolitions at MUKURU NJENGA slums in Nairobi are ongoing to pave way for the construction of the expressway following the government's eviction notice for residents living along the road reserved to vacate. The residents have now been asked to cooperate with constructors as the demolitions continue. However, a section of residents have decried not receiving an eviction notice, with the majority of those affected being small enterprise business owners. Damaris Nyambura reports.
Residents of MUKURU NJENGA are now worried about the situation they are facing since demolition started yesterday.
Biashara yangu imesimama, nangojea barabara ipite. Ikishapita ndio nitaona nitairudisha biashara niendelee kusomesha watoto wenye wanabaki nyuma ama hapana.
The residents, most of them being business owners, are now complaining that the government had not notified them early enough for them to vacate.
Tuliadhiriwa na hii barabara, tukakuja tukapewa notice ya miezi 2. Na sisi kama wanabiashara, hiyo muda ilikuwa fupi. Wangetuongezea angalau iwe ni miezi 4 ama 3. Kulingana na vile serikali wakati huu inatengeneza mabarabara. Hatuwezi kataa maendeleo sababu ni maendeleo. Lakini muda ndio ulikuwa fupi. hata tumeathirika, wengine hata tunalala njaa, wengine hata wanalala nje.
However, some of the residents say that their hearts are now filled with joy since the development of infrastructure has already started taking place.
Maendeleo na tunataka barabara mzuri tengenezwe ndio tutapata kazi mzuri.
Despite demolitions taking place at MUKURU NJENGA, most residents are now happy and filled with joy that this area will be now developed. Damaris Nyambura, Switch TV.
Thank you, Damaris Nyambura. As the world celebrates the girl child, leaders from KURIA community have come together to champion for the fight against female genital mutilation. The community elders from Nyebasi, Begumbe, Bairege and Bakira have pledged to fight against the cases of FGM and work with the government to take action on those found guilty or have the intention of practicing the retrogressive act.
Kubaliana kuhusu kumaliza ukeketaji wa mtoto msichana. Na tumekubaliana na serikali, tumesign na wao pia tumewaomba watusaidie wazee wetu waende kwenye milima kuomba huko wawezeshwe ili haya mambo yakiisha kutoka pale tutarudi kuja kufanya declaration na kutangaza, na tumeomba siku hiyo tukija tutapewa magari tupite rally Kuria yote wazee wetu tukiwa na wale wamama wanaokeketa tukitangaza kwamba tumemaliza huu ukeketaji.
The trial of 14 men, including a former president, has begun in Burkina Faso over the assassination of the country's revered revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara 34 years ago. Former President Blaise Compaoré and 13 others face a narrow of charges in the death of Sankara, described by his followers as the African Che Guevara. Sharon Nyoike tells us more.
The charismatic Pan-Africanist was shot dead, aged 37, by soldiers during a coup on 15 October 1987, which saw his close friend Blaise Compaoré come to power. 4 years previously, the pair had staged the takeover which saw Sankara become president. Compaoré is among the 14 accused, but he is currently in exile in neighboring Ivory Coast, where he fled after being forced to resign during mass protests in 2014. He has repeatedly denied involvement in Sankara's death and is boycotting the trial. Sankara remains an icon across Africa. Stickers emblazoned with his face adorn taxis across West Africa, while across the continent in South Africa, radical opposition leader Julius Malema cites him as one of his inspirations. It was under his rule that the country was renamed from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning land of upright people. Sankara himself led an austere lifestyle. He reduced his own salary and that of all public servants. He also banned the use of government chauffeurs and first-class airline tickets. Education was a key priority. While he was in power, the literacy rate increased from 13% in 1983 to 73% in 1987, and he also oversaw a massive national vaccination campaign. He also redistributed land from feudal landlords and gave it directly to poor farmers, which led to a huge increase in wheat production. He pushed ahead with a socialist agenda of nationalization and banned female genital mutilation, polygamy, and forced marriages. Burkina Faso has long been burdened by silence over the assassination. During Compaoré's long time in office, the subject was taboo, and many are angry that the killers have gone unpunished. Sharon Nyoike, Switch TV.
We'll keep you posted on the goings of the trial case on Thomas Sankara. We now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Send in your feedback and comments to our SMS line 111 at Switch TV Kenya and at Link Nombogo on all social media handles. A team of 6 scientists are simulating life on Mars in a rocky Israeli crater. The team is creating conditions to feel what it will be like to live for about a month on the red planet. Apollo James reports.
Here in the Norman crater in the desert of southern Israel, a team of 6, 5 men and 1 woman have begun simulating what it would be like to live for about a month on the red planet. Their MAD-20 habitat is tucked beneath a rocky outcrop. Inside here, they sleep, eat and conduct experiments. On the outside, they wear mock spacesuits fitted with cameras, microphones and self-contained breathing systems. Mars probes have captivated astronomy fans across the world with robotic rovers like NASA's Perseverance, and for the first time, the helicopter Ingenuity are offering a glance of the planet's surface. But a manned mission is likely more than a decade off. The 6 team's members are constantly on camera, their vital signs monitored, their movements inside are tracked to analyze favorite spots for congregating. Outside, other engineers and specialists work with the drone and rover to improve autonomous navigation and mapping on the world where GPS is not available. Altogether, they will carry out more than 20 experiments in the field, including geology, biology and medicine, and hope to publish some of the results when finished. Apollo James, Switch Television.
Experimenting on life in Mars. Who would have ever thought? Thank you, Apollo James. Afghan witnesses are recounting with bitter memory the suicide bombing at a mosque in Afghanistan's northern city Kunduz, which killed over 60 people. The witnesses say the attack targeted Shiite Muslim worshippers during Friday prayers in the city of Kunduz. More than 60 people were killed and dozens of others wounded. Mourners from the minority Shiite community held funerals for the victims who died from the blast. It's the latest in a series of bombings and shootings that targeted Afghanistan's new Taliban rulers.
We were about to stand for the Friday prayer behind the mullah. We were sitting right there, and a suicide bomber was in the center of the mosque. Bodies were everywhere. Some didn't have hands, some didn't have feet, and some didn't have heads.
At the time, even the district hospital would not accept the wounded patients and would take them out and suggest that the patients be taken to Doctors Without Borders because the district hospital...
On this week's episode of Know Your CEO, we interact with Peter LENGAPIANI, the Chief Executive Officer at UWEZO Fund, as we look into the financial opportunities available and how you can access them. Take a look. If we want to know how a CEO sees his world, then here's how. Apart from running an organization and strategizing, their key role is to ensure there is money in the bank. Our CEO this week is Peter LENGAPIANI, the CEO of the UWEZO Fund Oversight Board. Peter, thank you for creating time. Tell us a little bit about Peter before we even get to UWEZO Fund.
Thank you, and thank you for having me in this show. My name is Peter LENGAPIANI, the CEO of UWEZO Fund Oversight Board. Peter is just a person from pastoralist community who has found his way through the thick and thin, went through school all the way from Samburu, went through a process that having teachers as his mentors and people that I will aspire to be. But when I came all along, I realized that there is more than just teachers. It is a tough journey, but I have walked through, and here I am, and hope to the pastoralist young people that they can also make it to higher offices in this country. By then, I never imagined. I told you that the people I aspired to be is a teacher, because that was the highest level I was able to see and interact. Having even a perception that I will be a CEO of a government institution was not even in my mind.
Let's now talk about UWEZO Fan. Your primary focus, what is it on?
We have women, youth, and people with disability. Those are our target groups. They have to belong to a group for them to access funding for UWEZO. Our requirements are very easy. They just need to register with social services. They form a self-help group. They just make an application once they receive the certificate for registration, and they submit the application form. The only person who endorses that application form is a chief or assistant chief. They don't need to have a bank account or a bank statement. They can give us those, books, the table banking books or records they keep at their own merry-go-round.
What if one person in the group of 7 is listed by CRB? Are they still eligible?
Yes, they'll still be eligible. Ours, we don't look at CRB at the moment. The reason is the security we have is that social security.
What is the minimum amount and what is the maximum amount that one can get?
The minimum we give is 50,000. But for startups, those who we are meeting them for the first time or the first-time borrowers, we give them between 50 to 100,000. But we upscale with time, with a growth of between 150 to 200%, depending on how you repay and how your businesses are. We grow that up to 500,000.
Maybe someone is asking, would you ever have a nice business idea presented to you? I'm not in a group, I'm an individual. Do they have access to the funds?
At the moment, we don't have funding for an individual, but that is one of the programs the board is looking into. And probably once the board look into in the next cycle, we are able to provide that lending. And it has come strongly from the ground. Every time we go there and engage with our beneficiaries, they usually ask us if we can have a product for the individuals.
Peter, the next segment of Know Your CEO is called Quickfire. At least we'll loosen up a bit.
Yes.
Get to know Peter beyond this beautiful office. Peter, what do you do beyond office?
I love doing community work.
What is the funniest business idea that someone ever brought and you funded?
The funniest business idea, probably I can say the unique, because I might not have met a funniest business idea.
What's the most unique one?
Yes. The most unique is a business requested by some young people in Turkana. And they wanted to do some chick business.
Yes.
And at first I thought the climatic condition there will not sustain chicken rearing. And these young people wanted to airlift chicks.
Airlift?
Yes, from Nairobi.
With a chopper?
No, with the normal flights. They just get the normal flights which go to Lodwar, and they collect their chicks there, and then they go and grow them, and then they sell them to the various markets. Then at first I said, no, this is crazy. This might not work.
Did it work?
Yes, surprisingly, it is one of best groups that the fund has funded, and these young people were able to get orders from the county government, from the refugee camps, the military camp which is there. Those are the things they were able to see.
Peter, as we wind up, what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs?
I'll advise young people, to remain focused. And most of the groups which we have funded, it's important for our young people to remain focused, be resilient. Don't forget the groups where they started themselves. At times, our young people are very brilliant. They have solutions to most of the problems. But our young people don't like procedure. The moment you tell these young people to move from point A to point B, this is the road you need to follow. Our young people will just want to hop from A to B without any link. and I'll encourage them, it's important that we follow the process, keep hold of these groups, don't disintegrate them. And if you must be with your mbogi for, separate what is for the business. The profit you make, go with your mbogi wherever you want,
Great advice.
Yes.
Peter, that's your camera. I'd like you to sign out for us and tell the audience that the conversation on Know Your CEO continues next Monday.
The conversation to know your CEO will continue next Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a wrap.
Thank you.
From the sports desk, a 5-day physical and technical training for elite FIFA referees has kicked off today at Kericho Green Stadium. The training is part of a routine program in partnership between Football Kenya Federation, FKF, and FIFA, with an objective of developing the referees. The exercise is done yearly, and despite it being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic last year, the training has now resumed after the measures were relaxed.
Change to speed 16. 16.1.
We are here as a routine program. We have a partnership with the Kenyan Football Federation and FIFA Referees Department, where together we partner to develop the referees. It's not the first time we've done it. We are always doing it every year, but this year it was a bit this year and last year was a bit difficult because of the pandemic.
Here for a 5-day training by our FIFA instructor.
It was so important to us because it will enable us to do our task as we are supposed to do.
Meanwhile, Andy Murray beat highly rated Spanish teenager Carlos Alcaraz 5-7, 6-3, 6-2 to reach the third round at Indian Wells. Andy raced into a 3-0 lead but was pegged back to 4-4 after failing to take a set point on Alcaraz's serve at 5-4. The victory provides Andy, who is 121st in the men's rankings, with plenty of encouragement as he